get ready to be inspired and motivated like never before, because today we have a truly remarkable guest on our podcast, Matthew Purves. He is not just a marketing guru, but a man who truly embodies the values of humility, servant leadership, and a deep faith in Jesus Christ. With over a decade of experience in digital marketing and audio creation editing, Matthew has helped countless businesses grow and thrive in today's ever-changing market. He is the founder of IIP Marketing, a full-service marketing agency that provides top-notch services to clients across various industries. But what truly sets Matthew apart is his unwavering commitment to serving others. He believes that the true measure of success is not in what you achieve, but in how much you can give back to those around you. His faith in Jesus Christ fuels his passion for helping others, and he strives to make a positive impact in the world every day. Matthew's story is one of resilience, determination, and unwavering faith. Despite facing numerous challenges and setbacks in his life, he never lost sight of his purpose and his calling. He is a true inspiration to all those who aspire to make a difference in the world, and his insights and wisdom are sure to leave a lasting impact on all our listeners. So buckle up and get ready to be inspired by the amazing Matthew Purves, a man who truly lives out his faith and serves others with all his heart and soul. Passing it over now, to the man, the myth, the legend, himself. Give it up for Chris Baker. Take it away.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for watching or listening to the podcast Tell Me Your Story. This is your host, Chris Baker, and today's guest to come on and tell his story, just like everybody else does, Mr. Matthew. Give it up for Matthew. Welcome, man. It is truly an honor and a privilege to have you on the show. How you feeling today?
I'm feeling well, blessed.
Beyond blessed, man. Beyond blessed.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's just jump right into it, man. Where does it start for you? Where do you start? Where did your roots take place? Where'd you grow up at?
So I actually grew up in Paynesville, Ohio, about 30 minutes east of where I live right now. And I, had a pretty decent upbringing. I would say my parents were very supportive. Started getting into trouble a little bit, I think, towards like high school, pretty typical, and then pretty typical, I think, with that. And then I definitely made a big transition when I went into the military.
Wait, before we step into the military background, what kind of trouble are you talking about, just in case somebody's curious?
Oh, so I was involved with drugs, when we were real young, we used to go out vandalizing because we thought it was cool. Man, I'm a little embarrassed, but the list goes on, you name it, we would try and get into it, because it was fun to be sneaky or mischievous to a degree. So of course we played with fire a little bit and that too. So
wait, so you're telling me I'm not the only person that back in the days I used to explore these abandoned buildings?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. And then we used to rack them up if we could, if there was something that we could break, we did.
I was just telling somebody the other day just about this same story. Went into this building. I was telling my wife actually about this. Went in through the basement of this building, thinking that this building was closed. Me and my buddy Logan. And we're just exploring, just, checking this place out. We got all the way to the very top of this building to find out it's not abandoned at all. It's a running building. It's a running warehouse. So there's a dude, sitting at his desk with his feet propped up, taking a nap. We seen him in there. The radio was on. You think it was, like, looking back at it, like, dude, I was happy we got out there and the cops weren't called. Nothing happened. As soon as we seen him, we were booking it down the steps. We're looking back like, oh no.
I know that feeling.
Like, oh man, we're about to get in trouble, man. Yeah, like I said, because the way this place was set up, it had bars from the basement, like the cellar. And we just lifted these bars up because they were loose. And this place, windows are all boarded up. There's probably a few that weren't. We go in the basement, and it's pitch dark. You can't see nothing. And this is before, like, you had the real good cameras on the flash. The flashlights and everything on your phone. This is way before that. So
Yeah.
we're in the basement. It's pitch dark. Can't see nothing. All you hear is the water like dropping, and you hear it hitting a puddle. And you're just trying to feel your way until you see like some glimpse of light.
Yeah.
Got to that point. Got to up to the upper part. For this place to still be open, I was kind of amazed. I think about it because it was pretty empty. It was. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot going on there. It was probably a couple of crates that were like open and whatnot. This place had to be on its way out.
Yeah.
But once we got to like the highest part of it, like the third floor, I think it was, that's when we heard music. And I was looking at my buddy like, "Are you hearing that? Like, you hear something?" Like he's looking at me like, "What? Big old bug eyes." And I'm like,
I would too. I'd be
like,
scared.
and then like as we got closer to the sound of the music, that's when we seen like from the crack of this door, this dude had it like he was just sitting in his chair, legs were propped up. He was probably taking like an afternoon nap or something at work because the day was slow or what. But as soon as we seen him, man, we were out the door. Hurry up and ran. I mean, we got down them steps, and I hope you didn't hear us. Like I think about it now, because we were. But
Yeah.
the door that we tried to get out of was locked. It was, you couldn't open this door. It was sealed locked. There was no way to get in it. So we had to run all the way down to the pitch dark cellar and climb our way out and hope to God that the cops were outside waiting for us. Like, come on, boys. Come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. While your head pops out.
Come on. Come on. Come on out of there. You got any
Awesome.
similar stories to compete with that?
So I mean, honestly, when it comes to abandoned buildings, I think we were more into like new construction buildings. We definitely a couple times had the cops called on us, several times. I mean, we would have this like universal hide and seek game where we'd play it in the neighborhood. Like, I don't even know how we ended up finding each other, like, because it was so vast, but of course, you could always assume that they're in the brand new house development being built without a doubt. And yeah, I mean, and then of course, like we didn't know what we were doing. So we'd mess everything up, not realizing. And now I've been in construction myself several years, even. I'm like, oh man, we cost them a lot of money. Like, and just to think that we didn't get caught, like we definitely would have paid thousands and thousands of dollars, like without a doubt, and the times that the police did get called, fortunately we knew our woods very well. So like, and the police cars didn't fit. So, and fortunately too, there was enough houses spread apart from each other with all my friends that if they did have a dog, even we would be inside a house at some point, whichever direction we ran. So we were safe. We had a safe house whichever direction we went.
I know, man. The basement, that's where he was at.
Yeah.
There was another one that I had where we actually did get the cops calling us, but they didn't know it was us. It was a place, it was, just another abandoned building. It was like I think it was it used to be a car place or something like that. I used to work on cars in this place because there was a lot of stuff still in there from it. And as we went inside here, we're just exploring. We got all the way up to the top. And so my buddy, who was with me at the time, decides I'm gonna jump to the next building because it's right next door. I'm like, dude, no, because there's people actually in that building. You can't do that. Sure enough, jumps on the building. And as soon as he does that, they run outside. He was like, all right, come on now. Get down from there, boys. Get down. We know you're up there. We hurry up and, made it to the point where you couldn't see us. We ducked down, hurry up and got out of there. A couple weeks later, I would say a couple weeks later afterwards, that building was being torn down. I guess
Oh.
they had enough of it. It's like this building's not being used. They just tore it down. And now whenever I drive by that field, I just see memories like the day we almost got caught because of Logan. We messed it all up for us, man. The day we almost got caught.
Often wrong, but never in doubt,
And the game, like you were just talking about in your story, it kind of sounds like a game we used to call, I think back in the day, where We'd be all over town, but I mean, not too far, like within reach. But we'd get in groups, and I think it was called Manhunt.
Okay.
I think
Yeah,
that's what the game was
I'm
called.
familiar with the game actually. Yeah, we it was a universal hide and seek for us though, but very similar, very similar. And
Man, that's what it sounds like, Manhunt.
what is the reason why it's so similar is because we were always in a group, like, or, we'd be getting in trouble, probably smoking something we shouldn't, or drinking stuff, like way too young, but we were definitely hiding in those places doing that for sure.
As I look back at those times, though, I just think about like nowadays, with technology being so advanced, it was just a blessing, man. We didn't have phones in front of our faces
Yeah.
24/7. We didn't have somebody trying to film us to be on TikTok or anything like that. And
Yeah.
I mean, just how awesome that is. I kind of like when I think about my childhood anymore, or you probably feel the same way. Doesn't it feel like a Hallmark classic, like a Christmas movie or something like
It really
more
does. Like
Christmas
there
stuff
should
we
be a
used to do?
movie like how do you know where the kids are? Look where the bikes are, like
Man.
that's where they're at right there.
Quick,
Like
quick, quick.
that's and that was how you like telegraphed it too. Like
Dude,
calling on the dial phone like, hey mom, I'm over at my friend's house like 5 hours later when they're like scared sick where you're at. Yeah,
thing was like
it's like a Hallmark moment for sure.
definitely when like it was time to come home, it was your mom yelling for you, "Come on
Yeah,
home! Our
yeah,
supper's ready."
yeah,
Nowadays, sorry kids, I mean that was a
yeah.
golden age. You had to be there.
Yeah, you did, and I mean now you can't go anywhere without technology. It almost seems like, and you want to, but then like my kids, for example, like, I'll track them. My oldest daughter, she has a phone, but you better believe I'm tracking it. And it's nowadays you have to. I feel like it's so scary to think of all of the things. And I grew up in a house with two boys, so having two girls and a boy, it's like night and day. It's really night and day.
What mine was, I had two older sisters, so every
Okay.
every boy in the neighborhood, especially because my sisters were attractive, everybody was always so, like, "Chris, I'd love to date your sister. Chris, I might be your brother-in-law in the future." Like, oh man, shut up, shut up. I don't feel like hearing it. It was nonstop, man. I would always hear that. Always, always. Um, so outside of the childhood, what was your school like? Were you like in and out of school? What was going on?
So high school was kind of a fun experience for me, actually. I think I was a pretty popular kid. I always had a, good looking girlfriend. Um, I was known as like the party man, AOL Instant Messenger that just came out, so of course my name was Party Animal 17 and everybody knew me for that, and I definitely fit the profile of that unique AOL name.
There's that
And
too.
I tried to fulfill that reputation, I think almost anywhere I went. Night and day now, but there was a deep rooted need to make sure that that was what people knew me for. And I mean, again, it even came at some, again, bad means. Just if I had stuff to help them have a good time, I would, and deep regrets now, deep regrets, but I'm forgiven. And I loved it. Like I honestly had a really great experience in high school. I was very social, very fun for me. I don't have much of, bullying. Like the school I went to, we were pretty like universal. I grew up in Painesville City, or Painesville Township, but it just you wouldn't even know if there was a such thing as racism if you were there. And I mean, coming from my perspective, like there was everyone just mixed and we were all friends. We didn't think nothing of it. It was
See,
really just
that's
universally fun.
that's what I would say. I agree with you there too, because I had the same thing at my high school. We were all my class at least, it seemed like we were very close. We never
Yeah,
seemed like different ranks. At least that's how I see it. At least
yeah,
everybody
yeah,
had their, everybody was connected to each other. Nobody was
yeah,
thinking like, oh yeah, he's just, we can't associate him because of that reason.
yeah,
Like, no, nobody thought that at all. It was like pretty much like we're all blood, like we're family.
yeah. Like,
That's,
I mean, there wasn't even like a jocks group,
no,
like if there was, like they were still cool with everybody. So yeah, it was very, very inclusive, like all around, I think.
that's the one thing I'd say I like. Is looking back is like you always see in like movies and stuff. You got all these different cliques. Where I was at, man, no, everybody, if everybody wanted to be friends, that's how it worked. Nobody had like there was no jocks, there was no nerds, it was none of that. Everybody
Yeah,
just clicked together.
yeah, same, same.
So you were the party animal in high school.
Yeah. Night, like I said, night and day now. Like I don't even want to think about partying now.
Oh, no. Even like thinking back to that too, party and stuff is like just even the thought of drinking a beer, man. Just nope, not me.
Yeah,
Nope.
yeah, no,
Hey, kind
I
of. I
don't
would
bother
say
me none.
I
Yeah.
would kind of explain to like the younger audience what AOL is. Just thinking.
So so AOL was the first version of text messaging, and that way you could actually interact with people who agreed to become friends with you. But it was specifically on like a desktop computer or a laptop, if anybody had one really at that time. Wasn't They weren't as popular as they are now. And it was legitimately the first direct text messaging platform that I'm aware of, at least, that was popular as well.
And besides that, you also got to understand, we didn't have cell phones either.
Yeah.
So for you guys
We did.
watching or listening, that is a blessing in disguise. Because when
Yeah.
you wanted to get on the internet, you had to make sure everybody was off the house phone, the
Yeah.
landline. And
And it stunk when you were right in the middle of downloading something and somebody picked up the phone. It would ruin it. And you're like, 4 hours I've been waiting, on Napster, trying to steal it too.
it was there. We had 2 more seconds. I would have. And then at the same time, this is before Facebook. Facebook was not even existing yet. I think, during this time we're in MySpace phase. We're kind of getting to that point. And that was the first actual big social network page where all our friends were connecting. And as I look back at it now, it's like, dude, we were creating our own pages. We were making our own, putting everything together. And I bet you nowadays you don't even know how to do that anymore. Putting your
Yeah.
own graphics and stuff onto a page is
Yeah.
Tom had it out for us, man. He taught us well.
Yeah, he did.
He taught us well. Tom was always your number one friend.
Always the first friend for sure.
He was the number one dude, man. Way before Mark Zuckerberg came in and bought him out. And Tom is somewhere in the random in the world. Every once in a while, he'll post a picture and say hello. He's living it up, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, so after high school, man, what happened? Did you know right away what you wanted to do with college? What was going on?
So no, actually, I had again gotten in trouble. I started getting again involved in drugs, money, alcohol, and I actually started developing a little bit of a criminal record even at that young of an age. Just in and out of like the system kind of with it. I never really went to like extensive juvenile detentions, but always got in trouble in school. But at that point, I realized that I didn't really have much options when it came to me staying where I was at, because I wasn't just being influenced, but I was the influencer on a lot of it. And it was like you knew you had that kind of power, so you took advantage of it. And it was evil. I mean, it was outright evil. And I had this realization, like I've got to go out away and do something. My parents were going through a rough time at that time, and I ended up going and living with my dad as he had traveled a few different states looking for employment. He was like a computer guy, and but he dealt with like the mainframe computers, so like the big ones. And that time away for those, it was almost a year, I would say, a little over a year, probably. Oh, yeah, probably almost 2 years, actually. And I had tried to get in the military right off the bat, but because of my record, I couldn't. Attempting to go to the Army because I would have been fourth generation. I would have been, it just followed suit. That's what I knew. But after repeated failed attempts of getting in, I was like, let's try something different. And I went into a Marine recruiter, and we were actually living at like, it's called Elgin, Illinois. So it's about an hour west of Chicago. And what happened was I talked to that Marine recruiter, and he was actually a paralegal. So he knew like everything that had to happen in order to get me in. And my options were limited because of my record. So I was basically, do you want to work on trucks? But I got exempt from that because I was colorblind. Or do you want to do infantry? And so I went and I did infantry. That's what I went into.
Now, oh man, I just thinking too, like, dude, that had to been like an adjustment for you as well. Going from living this kind of lifestyle to joining into, the Marine Corps. Tell me what was going on there. How did you prepare yourself for that?
So honestly, I left in a week.
What?
I left a week later. I was clean. I passed on my drug tests. I actually scored a pretty decent score on my ASVAB, but because of my record, it didn't matter. But he told me, like, if you get in here, you could switch after because your score can get you better jobs. But I didn't really have a desire, but the transition was actually really simple for me. I didn't have any hard time with it. Like I said, I'm fourth generation military, so I had that militant dad a little bit. Like you did not say no, sir, and if you did, like you got a backhand. Like it wasn't abnormal, and he wasn't an abusive dad. He was just stern, and I appreciate the discipline now more than ever, because he was never out of line, never unfair. I most certainly deserved twice as much for sure. Like I'm like thinking now, like, well, you showed me mercy. I see this. But it was a very simple transition for me. I knew what I was going to get into. I knew boot camp would really be like the hardest part. But after that, it all really flowed for me. I didn't have a problem going into the Marine Corps whatsoever.
No, I was thinking more too along the lines. Were you like in that shape already? Were you just ready to go?
Oh, no. So
That's what I was thinking, because you were in that
I
pumping
didn't
phase.
I didn't even know I had weight to lose when I got into boot camp. But like, I mean, I went from like maybe a buck 60 to like a buck 25. I was like, how did I didn't even know. I didn't even know. Like, I didn't even know that I had that much weight to lose. I felt like I was in decent shape, but I wasn't like a sports guy or anything like that. I was a party animal, I was a big pothead. And so there wasn't a sense of physique about me prior to that. But no, even then, I don't have like a hard time getting in shape though. So again, that was really quick, really simple. Over the 3 months, I mean, I was definitely one of the most improved from my initial results because I had never done that. And anybody who trains for 3 months is substantially better shape for sure.
Yeah, without a doubt. At least you hope.
Yeah, yeah. You're doing something wrong if you're not.
You're training for that long, man, and you're not getting results.
Yeah. And I
Might
mean,
want to
it's
work.
daily training. Like there was not like a day missed. Like every day there was training. So
Now, do you still train like that, or nobody's have parted with you?
so no, not at all. I I moved furniture for 9 years. Actually, once I got out, um, and that actually put me in the best shape of my life ever. That was far more physically demanding, I think, on a daily basis than anything I've ever done. Now I am, like mediocre. I can't do nothing. That's the best way I could say it. And I got the gym membership. I like to do the combination. I like cardio and I like weights. I won't ever do one or the other or one over the other. Um, and I think more recently, I've definitely started getting a lot more back into it now that I'm developing a routine and I can set times to go do that. So very self-disciplined still with that matter.
That's how I am too. But I don't use the gym. I'm more like homeschool. I mean,
Yeah,
I work at home,
yeah.
and I got my own weights. I have my own little bike that I ride. And,
Cool.
for anybody that's watching or listening right now, here's a tip I could give you. If you're looking to get into shape or lose any kind of weight, out and you're fresh into it too, fresh in the water, just take walks at first. Do like an hour walk each day, 40-minute walk. Start off doing that. Why? Because you're letting your body know. Don't just jump into something because your body's gonna be like, whoa, 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 what's going on here? If you just
You could
start off
cause
doing like,
atrophy even too. Like you could actually have adverse reactions jumping into it like that.
yeah. And your body though, your body like we're saying is your body will react in a certain way. And it'd
Yeah,
be kind of like, whoa, what's going on here, man? Don't do that.
yeah,
And then that feeling alone will make you kind of feel like, oh, maybe I'm not supposed to, and that'll change your whole mindset. So my best advice for you that are watching and listening and thinking about possibly get into that routine, that workout, start out doing walks. Put on some headphones, listen to some like motivational stuff, somebody yelling in your ear. I like to listen to David Goggins, if anybody's heard of him. Calls me a punk all the time. Tells me to get going. Quit being a quit being a little beep. Get to it, man. Quit making excuses. But if you have other time, you need really to fix your mindset too. Listen to it's probably best to listen to like Les Brown, Eric Thomas, even just really uplifting people that will help you along the journey. And also, listening to what I say, and I'm encouraging you to listen to motivational stuff, is because it will help you in your mindset and help you want to go for it more. You'll feed your brain the right stuff, your mind the right stuff.
what you put in is what you get out. That's for
Yep.
sure.
But anyway, so back to your story before we got into coaching over here. so, so you're in the Marines. How long were you in it?
So I was in 4 years. I was in March 2007 to 2011.
Nice. Did you go overseas at all, or?
So I did two deployments. They're called Marine Expeditionary Units. One was called the 15th MEU. The second one was the 31st MEU. The first one was actually just this 6-month long pleasure cruise. We went to tons of different ports, partied our butts off, experienced culture like firsthand. And I mean, Middle East, in Asia, and it was just really unique to experience the culture that way. We are technically a department of the Navy, so we always get attached to the Navy on the ship. The second deployment, though, was a little bit more serious. It was the 31st MEU. We actually got stationed in Okinawa, Japan. And while we were there, we ended up getting again attached to a Navy unit that we were assigned to do humanitarian missions. So what happened was Indonesia got wiped out by an earthquake, and that earthquake actually caused a tsunami in the Philippines. So we were actually like right in the boat of the float, titting sideways, like it was nuts. And we were providing some humanitarian relief in the Philippines. And then once we parted from there, we actually did some stuff in Indonesia as well. That was also kind of mixed up too. So we had a lot of, support in there. So
So it was pretty. It wasn't really that big of an adjustment. I think about it because you went from you're like, hey man, I'm still part of this life.
party animal. Yeah.
The party animal lives on.
Now that you say that, I'm only piecing it together right now.
It's like, it's still together, man. It all worked out. But like you said, God always knows what's going on, man. He
Yeah.
always, when we don't see it right away, God's always working.
Welcome to Innovative Ideas Pro, where innovation and motivation collaborate. It is said that the greatest among us is a servant, and all hard work leads to a profit. So let's face it, it's a war out there. Are you ready for what's next? We develop unique marketing strategies for your specific branding needs, which allow us to get your message to where your customers are looking most. So stop stressing about all of the small stuff, or at least the online stuff, and let us help you get more likes and subscribers, or sell those products, or maybe just get back to the things that are most important. We established partnerships based off of integrity, faith, and transparency. Contact us today at 440-391-9199 or on Facebook at Innovative Ideas Pro.
Man, welcome back. Before the network really cut us off, man, in our conversation. We're beginning to talk about how you went from, you were in the Marines and you're, going overseas and you're still living that party life. And then I was kind of touching in like, God's always working though, in a way. He's always kind of like, we don't know because we think in those times like, oh, God wasn't paying no attention to us. He was paying no mind to us. But in a way, when you look back on it, kind of was.
It really was. Like the more you know him, the more you see it. Like, I mean, for me, it was like, wow, I can't even imagine everything else that was going on around me that I was being protected from. Like, I mean, I was in this life of debauchery, like, and you still want to love me? Like, who am I? Who am I to be loved by you, And yeah, I love that. That's actually my favorite thing about God is I can see his presence in my whole life. And now I don't take it for granted now. There's a huge difference for sure.
I mean, that's what I'm saying too. Is like I agree with you. It's like even in those moments, man, it's like we think that he's not there. He's not paying no mind to us, but in reality, he was there all along.
Very unique experience in the Marines, actually. I was actually in Jordan, and in later years, I find out that this is like the place where Jesus got baptized, and I remember while I was there, like, again, I wasn't about this life. So I couldn't stop thinking about Jesus. Like, I mean, it was so overwhelming. Like, and I mean, it was so overwhelming. I can't even imagine what was actually going on. But the only thing I could think about, I was like, Jesus was here. Like, and I'm like, why am I thinking of this? I'm even trying to have like just regular BS conversation with my buddies, and I'm still just head spinning. Like, do you all feel that? Like, do you all understand that something is going on here? Like, and I don't think half of them understood that or felt that presence, but I can say honestly, I think from that day forward, something carried with me. And it was an eye-opener that I never knew would turn into what it is today. That's for sure.
I'm just thinking about that too. Like a lot of people think about it like, yeah, you read about it in the Bible, like, yeah, he was baptized over there and all this good stuff. But like you said, you're actually walking in the footsteps. You're actually in the area where it was written, where it all
Yeah.
took place.
Yeah.
So even now I'm feeling like the Holy Spirit kind of come on me, and I'm kind of
Amen.
feeling like, this that that calm, that peace feeling, like, dude. Remember, I'm just thinking, like, what were you feeling right now? Feeling in that moment, walking through the Jordan, walking through, all that stuff, walking over there, just
It was again a relief. Like, one thing I was noticeable through like observation was like the water was so clear. Like, it was the cleanest water I've ever seen. We actually even saw like an alligator with a dog, because there's a bunch of stray dogs there, but you saw the dog inside the alligator's mouth, and you can see everything. You couldn't miss it. Like, so that was unique, but it was so strange. Like, you just felt like compelled to touch it because it was so clear. We would be pulling up these sea urchins and stuff. Like, I can't say that we were there too long, but I just know that that's one of the ports that we go through a lot is Jordan. And that eventually led us into like Kuwait and some parts of Iraq as well.
so tell me more. How was this like the turning point for you? Were you becoming more connected with God in this moment, or what was going on?
So, from my perspective now, yes. At that point, no. I definitely had a lot more growing and maturity to come, especially in the grounds of my faith. And I was blasphemous. I mean, I was practicing idolatry. I was involved in adultery. You name it, and I see that there was really that pinnacle point where it opened up my eyes. It said, okay, God loves you and he wants a relationship with you. Like, once you accept that, that's the good news. Now here comes the bad news. Now you have to change. And I can definitely tell you, I started going through very discerning moments after that port, without a doubt. I even would talk to my sergeant at times like, hey, can I go out with you? Because I know that you're not going to be a bad influence. I know that you won't be about the drinking and partying, the women. And I could say it was a notable point where discernment started to trickle its way in. And I believe discernment is what it is, the ability to judge well. Thou shalt not judge, that can be so misinterpreted because we have to use judgment. And there's an understanding with that I'm learning, that you can judge without being judgmental. And that's what I think discernment really encompasses. Like, here's a good decision, here's a bad decision. Judge. You have to pick, and that's I think the premise of the discernment, which hit me hard. It hit me hard. At that point, it was night and day. It changed.
That was the turning point. So after you finished your time over there, what'd you do once you came back over here to the States?
So I had a very terrible transition, and it was all self-inflicted misery. Just being very open about it. Boast only of our weaknesses. That's what I find beneficial to do. My church's motto is actually, "You're broken, me too," and I love that because I think that verse, "Boast only of your weaknesses," is really encompassed in that actual thing. We're all broken. We're all messed up. We all need help. We all need saved. And half of us don't even know what we need saved from. And so until we get there, like, it's kind of like a trial and error, But as soon as I got out, I was actually married, and I was just starting to slip back into drugs. Um, I didn't really know how to have a relationship. I didn't know how to be a married man, um, because I realized, especially now, the value of faith being the center, or Jesus being the thing that you compare to, it wasn't present. It wasn't there. So of course you're always stuck comparing with yourself. I mean, it just got really bad. I did pursue higher education. I started going into psychology, and I actually even became aware in an adulthood and aging psychology class that I was a abusive person. I had verbal abusive mannerisms, and they were bad. And I actually made like a judgment call, where I had to separate, because I knew that the other party wasn't going to leave, and I I couldn't live with myself being that way. So again, that was a sign from God. Like, most men are in jail when they realize that, and I wasn't. And that was a hard thing for me. That was definitely a rough transition, because I went back to Chicago with my wife, who's actually was one of my high school sweethearts from Ohio. And it got rough and rough and rough, and I would keep masking it with things. I would try and fill in the void with everything except Jesus, and it didn't work. It didn't. I There was a calling, and I remember even on a day where it like reached one of the final lines, I actually grabbed her hands and even prayed, like, not knowing what I was doing, not knowing what that would even come into. But we we did eventually decide to move back to Ohio and divorce. And I had a lot more growing to do even then. There was I got back here. What do you know? I had a network. I stayed in trouble. I was so hurt and broken that, again, I constantly tried to just cover it up and mask it with loads of alcohol, drugs, you name it. It was up my nose. You name it. I think the only thing I was even ever scared to do was heroin, because the fentanyl stuff started coming out. So I did get a real hesitant to do that, and I liked uppers, not downers. I wasn't that type of person. People do have preferences, and anything that could keep me going and keep me up, that was my drugs of choice. So that again, it kept trickling down. It kept trickling down. And finally my daughter's like 3. And I'm just reflecting in the mirror, like, you got to grow up. You got to change. So here I am, like, okay, I got to get my daughter in church. I don't need it, but I got to get her so she has someone to run to, right? Well, God put this guy, Andy, in my life. I met him first when I was serving at Olive Garden, and then he shows up randomly. I ended up showing up at his house because I was following a pretty girl to this group meeting, and I ended up at his house. And it was like a leadership convention thing type, and it was actually really beneficial. It really helped me, and he became my mentor. But I had a hard time, because I was like, who's this engineer nerd? What does he possibly know about hardship or life or roughnecking it or getting in trouble, but we were sitting at a meeting one day, and he was like, one of my goals is to lead 1,000 people to Christ. And I was like, you're crazy. What does that even mean? Like, really? But it compelled me to the point. I was like, what do you mean by that? Like, lead them to Christ? How? My mom was like the spiritual leader of our families. So I had a premise, I had an understanding, but I did not know it like I do now. And that was the beginning, I think, of my recovery. And from there, it was a rough road too.
So I'm thinking about it as you're saying, is like, how often do we find ourselves trying to fill that hole, that God-sized hole in our hearts,
Yeah.
with something like alcohol, weed,
Yeah.
drugs, all that stuff, sex, all that stuff. And you're trying to keep filling it and trying to fill it to satisfy yourself. But in the end, you're just it's not happening. It's not working because it's the Jesus hole, man. It's the,
Yeah. He designed that hole for only God,
it's
you know,
only for
like
Jesus,
only
man.
Jesus. We are designed that way for sure.
So for the person that's watching, listening right now, this is, if not, I think this is God talking to you, telling you right now from his experience, that you can keep searching and searching, keep trying to get the higher high or, whatever you want to do, but you're never going to be satisfied. You're going to
Yeah.
keep searching. You're going to keep trying to find, the next greatest thing. But at the end of the day,
Yeah.
what would you say
The
to the
next
person right
best
now?
feeling, I mean, really, that's all you're chasing is it's not even a high, it's just a feeling, and either that or you're just running very fast from another one. And oftentimes, I hate to say it, it's a combination of both. It really is. You don't know which way to run at that point, and so you go hard and you run as fast as you can in the wrong direction, and it isn't until you hit that wire that like leveled you out or that brick wall that won't move that you just finally are like, oh, I gotta stop running. That was a big transition.
So would you say this was the turning point for you then? Or did you still have more to grow from there? Now that you were
So
following the pretty
I
sure.
will I will say that that was the start of my turning point, but my turning point took 7 years. It took 7 years of messing up, and but in that 7 years, it was messing up and then not repeating it, which was the difference between every other time before. And I just mentioned about, I got to take my kid to this church, right? Well, my mentor is actually the one who led me to the church that I've now been a part of 10 years, and here I am just like, she needs it. She needs it. Well, I mean, within 2 years of being there, I got baptized. And I, of course, I didn't understand, like everybody has this story about baptism. Like when I got dunked in and I got dunked out, I didn't have this like, oh, I was kind of like, I still feel the same. What's going on, but I knew that there really was significance in it. There really was a purpose in it. And I also learned like I'm not alone. I'm not the only person because of course I was like reading about Jesus's and I heard this omnipresent voice that this is my son in which I am well pleased. And I was like, I didn't hear this voice. Wait, what's going on? But it wasn't about that. It was my public display of affection. Like literally, it was Jesus is the Son of God. He is my Lord and Savior. He died on the cross for me, even when I didn't deserve it. And that was amazing. I still just love it. Honestly, I could talk about Jesus all day now. Like I'm a huge fan of apologetics. Um, because I feel like that's the approach we need to take with the generations I constantly confront. They need historical validity. And I don't blame them because there's so much to question. And it does go past that, though. It deeply goes past that. You can have all the facts and they won't fix your feelings. It's a relationship. It's not a religion. And I even quote the Bible all the time with that. And it's like, what does the Bible say about religion? Well, take care of orphans and widows in their distress and not be polluted by the corruption of this world. When I tell people that that's what the Bible says about religion, that God holds dear and faultless, no one's willing to neglect that. They're all like, I can get on board with that, helping women and children and not being messed up by the crap. Like, sweet. where do I sign up?
Let's
And
do this.
all you had to do was read it yourself. And that's what it took for me. Like my pastor heavily encourages us to read it for ourselves. Do not be persuaded by persons or people teaching so-called doctrine, because the enemy is disguised as an angel of light, and we need to be cautious of that. You know, when we hear church, I hate to say it, but most people I know who grew up in a churchy background, they've experienced abuse, molestation, they extreme issues. Like, I've never even thought, and I was like, I'll probably never run to God either if that's how I grew up, if the church was affiliated with it. So, but being a military man, I see it as a tactic. This is spiritual warfare. This is really something that our enemy is attacking us on that front. And there's only one weapon that can, there's only one weapon, and that's the sword, the word of God. So when I read it for myself, that was really the big accelerator. To the moon. Like, I need to know more about Jesus, and funny story, because when I met my pastor, I finally sat down with him after all of this. He's like, so why are you here, bud? And I was like, I don't mean to tell you this, but I got to tell you this. So me and my friend, we were tripping on these mushrooms, and I had the most divine experience of my life. I changed that day. That was it for me. That was bam. Jesus is real. God is real. And you need to tell people about it now. So, of course, I'm like discerned that this pastor is about to pass like mad judgment on me. I'm like scared, like, oh, here we go. Tell me how much of a bad person I am. That was the complete opposite. Like, in fact, as he was praying for me at the end, he goes, God, I want to thank you for these mushrooms. Whatever it takes for people to lead to you, God, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for this revelation in such a dark moment. Like, and that again was like that grace that just, I like bawled in this guy's arms right after that. I was like, thank you. You didn't judge me. You're amazing. When can I come to church again? Like, and it was huge for me. It was huge to see that was an actual godly perspective. Like, he didn't have that. And I think it all really comes into full fruition when you learn who Jesus sat with, and who he chose to sat with over the religious hierarchy,
Preach, man, preach.
Yeah.
Because that's what a lot of people miss out on when they start reading it, hearing people talk about, just Jesus and himself. Jesus was never around perfect people.
Yeah,
never.
never.
It's all the misfits, man. Look at all the disciples. Everybody had their own story.
And chosen misfits.
Like, think about that. Like, every one of his boys and the girls had something going on with themselves. Nobody was perfect. Nobody was perfect. And that's what we got to understand as a church, man. As people, when we go to, bring people into the church and get people, I would say get close to Jesus more than anything.
Yeah.
Is not judge.
Yeah.
Because nobody's perfect. There's only one perfect person. That's the Lord and Savior.
Yeah. Amen. And
like you said, when he didn't judge you, you felt it right away. You're like, okay, I want to be more a part of this. Like, because
I was compelled instantly. I was ready. I can't say I hit the ground running, because I've really learned my place with this. Like, I like to call myself special forces, just because you have your conventional forces, and they're the ones dealing with most people. They can speak to the crowd because there's a lot more general purpose. There's a general understanding, but the bad sex issues, the deep drug resolutions, the bad violent stuff that, a lot of people don't get involved in. It doesn't scare me. And that's where I've been. That's where I've been put. That's the people that have been put in my life. And that's my purpose. I see it now. Like, and oftentimes it's just a matter of spending the first few months just listening. You don't even know the power of that until you understand, James 1:19, be slow to speak, quick to listen, slow to become angry is the third part of that. And of course I still even have some issues with that today. But that's because I'm human, and it is a process. but I see God's work everywhere now, like in everything I do. Like, again, the transition for me, it did start with like a recovery thing, and then it did start with trying to serve two masters, realizing I couldn't, because I ended up liking one over the other. And then I started really liking the other one because I realized that there was so much more to it. And that, of course, was Jesus. I then actually got in trouble for a felony possession of marijuana in 2016, and I got in like severe accountability automatically put on my place. I was on probation. I was on all this stuff. So like being monitored was the best thing that ever happened to me, because if you would have just let me be free, I would have probably ended up serving the wrong master. And but that probation was God. That probation was him putting accountability in my life. And I messed that up. I was facing 5 years in jail, and I got switched to this veteran treatment program. And that was a godsend too, because I was able to use prescriptions that benefited me, but not understand it, and then get off of things. But I also was also monitored for everything. Like, I had random drug tests all the times. I had very strict classes. I had to go to IOP, intensive outpatient program, and get reprogrammed completely and entirely. I got reprogrammed, and I needed that. I didn't have relationship skills. I knew how to kill people. I was really good at it. I was really good at strategically causing mass violence. I was really great at planning a party. And what does that mean? Like, what does that mean, really? In the end of the day, nothing. It's all smoke. As Solomon would say, it's all smoke, and then I started talking about it. And the first thing that happened is all my friends went away. And I was like, I'm not even hurt by that. That doesn't even bother me. Like, so I started praying for them. I'd pray for them. I'd pray for them. And then I saw God just slowly putting certain people in my life. Again, like my little brother, for example, who's actually my ex-wife's little brother, but I still call him mine because we're cool. Few years I've been talking to this guy. He's like, I'm an atheist, this and that. I'm an atheist. And I just showed grace like it was shown me. Just last year he got baptized.
Hey,
And I'm like, who am I? Who am I? But my transition came because of Christ. There was no other thing. All glory be to God on that very thing. There's no other way to say it, no other way to describe it, because after I learned that submission part, again, here's the good news. God loves you and he wants a relationship with you. Okay. I accepted that. Now I have to change. And I was like ripped apart. Like, what do you mean? No, I want to be me. This is the world we live in. Be free, be you, be true to you, and no, just stop. Just don't listen to yourself. You're crazy, just like everyone else. Okay. There are none righteous, just so and I realized again, I was sick. I was sick with sin, and I needed healing. And that's when the ministry aspect kind of played its role. I eventually, let's start now, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I met another woman. Of course, we were not doing things right. But surprisingly with her, it was like no one else. I was very convicted. This is different. This woman's different. She actually loves God, and I'm grateful, Well, we get pregnant, and then it was like almost again like a dream, like we both kind of had, and like we should get married. And I even, like, mind you, a week before was telling her dad, I won't marry because of a kid. I won't do that. That's dumb. Don't do that, and mind you, her dad's like 6 foot, ridiculous, 250 plus pounds. Like, I was like, please don't beat me up, you know, and it was just like, again, a chain reaction. One thing after another really kind of led up to everything. When I got in trouble, then I started getting put in mental health. But of course, I got in trouble before I met my wife, but it wasn't 2 years later that I got indicted. So I was now married, and then I got indicted. Then I got sent away for 2 months and got put on this probation. And so that was the best thing that ever happened to me. That was God. That was God showing up in my life. That was him saying, yo, put the brakes on this. You're messing up. You're breathing, so you still got a chance. Don't be a fool. And that's really but changed me. I was like, okay, all right, I'm gonna read this book. I'm gonna read these books now, that if you want to be technical, and I I it was fabulous. So I started getting serious help. I really started changing and transitioning in my home. Still causing trouble in my home. And then surprisingly, like, long story short, there was a lot of like religious stuff that came from parts of family members on both sides, right? And that really compelled me to know it even more. I had to know, because I always say it like this, like, the people who study counterfeit money, they don't study counterfeit money. They only study the real thing. They only look at that one thing. So any spot it out in a second. So that's how I view reading scripture. I only read that book now. I'll be honest. I couldn't tell you the last time I've read another one. And if it was spiritually related, maybe Ray Comfort's, like how to save souls and influence people, like, and I was like, it's crazy. Every conversation I get in, I find the knowledge of scripture irrelevant. Every situation, every scenario, everything, when it comes to people coming to me. Now, I can't talk to them about digital marketing. That's I can make a ministry out of that, though. Like, let's talk about it. Let's talk about this database. What can we, assimilate here? And let's talk about how the languages communicate. Let's talk about all these things. And that's where I was like, okay, I was very avid about health. I decided, hey, I want to start a health coaching business. I can't do anything because I'm a felon. So I started my own company, and that was actually called Grace Integrative Nutrition. I graduated from the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, and that helped too, because I was always a health person mindset, but that accelerated it. And I ended up really hating that. Because you just babysitting grown-ups. Like, that's how I felt in every person that I was starting to deal with and work with. And being a military person, it's like, like, and so, but that's because I was used to military people. They even if they didn't want to change, they did, and they didn't complain about it. Like, there was a difference there. And so, of course, the military clients were great. They were awesome, but I just got really depressed and miserable about it. So I decided to go to Ohio Media School, actually, to learn how to promote it. And in that process, I fell in love with digital marketing. I learned it in a year. I've opened my own company, got contracts now. Like, I love it. The video, media production, broadcasting, algorithms, paid marketing, organic marketing. I love everything about it, because it's easier for me to sell. That's really the main reason. Nobody wants to do it. So when I'm talking to the business owner, they're like, yeah, sweet. I would love for you to just take this all off my plate. So that was why I made that sudden transition. I had already opened it the LLC for affiliate marketing purposes, because I was going to go on that train, like, and I was like, wow, okay, there's something really happening here. But I've learned, like, through this whole process, I like being an entrepreneur. I like being a leader. So as I was really kind of developing Innovative Ideas Pro, which is my company now, I was like, how can I use this for God? How can I use this for God? Even on my about page, I make a point of saying we are a company that, rides on Jesus's principles and believe that, setting an example to emulate is the best form of leadership. And I won't hide it. I won't hide it. Jesus will be in all the work. If I have a way to talk to a client about Jesus, I'm gonna, like, I don't care. It doesn't bother me. Like, at this point, like, hey, do you know Jesus? Like, do you know he was actually a real person? Because I'm sure you learned about him in anthropology class and college right next to Zeus. So I'm positive that you're not convinced he's outside of mythology. And so that actually, compelled me to be self-taught in apologetics. Um, Great references and resources, hands down, would definitely be Gary Habermas. If you're looking for a one spot location with all the historical evidence put into one place, he'll provide it. And very thoroughly, very thoroughly. So it was all just one thing after another. And then I realized, okay, here's what's counterfeit, here's what's not. And everything we need to do now needs to be pertinent on Jesus principles, and if you live in today's culture, you have to understand this statement to such a high degree. And the statement is, I don't have to hate what's not natural, but I don't have to agree with it either. And I think that's a great way to approach many situations that are really heavily being pushed, narratives being pushed that do oppose my principles in the faith. And I like to be cautious, meet people where they're at, because I know that so many words just offend everybody now. So when I say things like that, it lightens the tone. I do question it a lot, because it's like, where's the inclusivity of my beliefs? And that's being rejected. But when I read scripture, this is what I hear. The world will hate you, and the people will hate you. And there's nothing you could do about it. They hated me. People looked at Jesus in the face and denied him. And blessed are those who didn't see him and still believe. And that is the most powerful thing I've ever been able to use. Since then, I've seen grown men fall to their knees praising Jesus. And I mean, drug addict, fiends, bad past people, like very violent past, very unnatural other part pasts. And I just, one after another, they're just like, okay, bro, something I don't. And I'm like, dude, I'm just a vessel. That's all. That's all I ever want to be. Please. I'm not a good dad. God, let me be a good dad. That's how humble I want to remain. And because all glory goes to God. You guys can tell me I'm these things, I'm all that, but it's just going through me. That's all. I can't hold on to that, because that feeds my ego. That feeds my pride. That feeds my superior intellect that I think I have half the time, which is BS straight up, and I it's funny. I actually remember a sermon that my church had. It was like King Solomon's sermon where he prayed for wisdom. I'm pretty sure everybody who's a Christian, once they hear that sermon, they go home and pray for wisdom. Like, God, I want that. Like, I want that as much as everyone else. And I think God has a sense of humor, because I realized then that my daughter's name in Greek, Sophia, means wisdom.
Wow.
So I laughed. I laughed. I laughed out loud. I was like, wow, this is something. But I've seen that transition. So now raise your children in the way of the Lord. Like I don't teach my kids stranger danger. I teach them strange behavior because I don't want them to be on a social level where they're just timid all the time and not talking. And I do believe that genuinely most people actually have at least a half decent good nature, and 99% of them won't do anything in public. And so when I'm there and I'm monitoring it, I let them go. I give them a little bit of freedom while I'm like honing in, looking at the person, like doing every analysis I can. Yeah, yeah. As a Marine and a father, so like it's like this double-edged sword. I was like, you guys aren't going to get away with anything, just so you know. Like on top of it, I've been in more trouble than every one of my family members all put together. So like I've got more humility to face than you can think of. I knew at this point, like I want to do my own business. I want to do ministry. I want to preach about God. I really think that that's the end goal, actually. The business is just a set.
For the commercial break.
Yes.
Before we were cut off, he was beginning to tell us about business and faith and how it comes together. Go ahead.
I actually made my own podcast about this while I was at Ohio Media School and how they intertwine, like the necessity, and some of my favorite verses associated with all hard work leads to a profit, and I'm at a blank for the other one at the moment, but I know it'll resurface, But there's a lot of it when it comes to work. I mean, it's literally in the premise of Genesis itself. God created Adam to work. And so there's value in it. And then when you read the most depressing book, Ecclesiastes, there's really only three things that are of value there, and that's sleep, food, and work. And you realize that you could always find joy in them. But it also really leads to a purpose. God wants us to work. And he doesn't want us to do it because we should feel like we're enslaved to him. No, we do it because we found out that he loves us and he loved us first. And that's why we act on it. And I think that's the main thing. Are you familiar with Vodi Bakum? So he's like a pretty, predominant pastor. I mean, tall black guy, very deep voice, right? I mean, so he's like always towering over people. But I was reading one of his audiobooks once, and he brought this definition of love that I've applied since that day. And he said, love is an act of the will accompanied with all emotions, which leads us to act on behalf of its object. So I always break that down backwards, especially if I'm talking like with an addict, like when you read that definition backwards, it goes, the drug was the object. You acted on it. It came with all emotions, and you made that choice to do it. And so love is a choice. How does that make sense? Well, God didn't rob us of our free will. He didn't rob somebody of freely sinning either. So why do bad things happen to good people? Because God didn't take away their ability to make bad choices. And unfortunately, good people do reap the consequences that aren't fair. But his grace surpasses that. Like it surpasses it to such a degree where what we're taught by example is to forgive the person beating us while they're beating us. And I think that is the most powerful message ever in history. So when I started backing it up with facts, everything else just kind of played in. I was like, okay, what's my main focus? God. What's my main point in life? Teach Christ. Well, then the business got better. Then my marriage got better. Then my kids got better. Then my health got better. Then my life got better. Everything just keeps getting better because of obedience to God. Nothing could ever explain that other than the Holy Spirit. And I'm positive it's present in my life and in my wife's life, because it makes me know I don't have to be this scholar that remembers everything. In fact, half the time I was saying any of this stuff to people, I don't even remember what I said, because I was just a vessel. I just trusted that he would use me. I trusted fully, and I completely submitted. And I went into dark places. I went into crazy places with no fear. Just, I'm gonna walk out of this, God. I don't know how I know, but I know I'm gonna. I won't get shot in here when I know there's this type of mentality here. Like, we got to pull this person out this house that nobody wants to walk into. But David and Goliath, come on, let me walk, please. The house was the giant to me. That's it. And that's what it means to me to fully submit there. And so all of this again is just making so much more sense. So I step back. I decide, okay, as I put this first, what happened in my business? Well, so I actually like made my official launch January 1st this year. 5 days later, got my first contract.
What?
And that was because of prior networking through a veteran program. And I was like, wow, this is amazing, because just yesterday I got basically put almost eye level with the executives on one of the biggest media production companies in Cleveland right now. And I couldn't believe it, because I was waiting for this corporate job right now, like, because I like commission, I like performance-based jobs. I was waiting for this with actually 95.5 the fish. And because of what just happened, I was like, wow, I have full reign, no corporate umbrella. I'm able to have like free creative liberty. On top of that, I have full access to now do what I plan to do, which is to make video media production about apologetics. So now, like, I have free everything, full blown giant production video stuff to produce stuff for God. And I'm like, wow, no one even knows that. But I was like, they just gave me a key. Here, you're part of this. Here, you walk in, and I mean, you could fit 50 houses in this place. It's so big. Like, it's massive. And it's like, wow, God, you are just constantly showing up. God, you don't ever give up. And I mean, and this came again at the extent of standing up to religious hierarchy. This came at the extent of losing friends. This came at the extent of canceling that Disney prescription. This came at the extent of doing these things because you really have to obey, And I'm like, I never thought I'd be so strict. Now I don't see it as strict. Now I see it as understanding. Like, you have to train your kids in righteousness, and it's so easy for them to be persuaded. And who doesn't want to influence their kids to be like them? Like, let's just face it. I think that's a goal, but that's not mine no more. I want to influence my kids to be like Christ.
Amen.
And that is that caring, forgiving. I like saying that gentle approach. On top of it, that firm stance, that knowing without question, or as the Bible says about faith, certainty in the things we hope for, or no, assurance in the things we hope for, and certainty in the things we don't see. They have it. You know, when I hear my 5-year-old daughter praying, when I shut the door, I'm like, my heart melts, you know, like my 11-year-old, man, she's setting boundaries at 5 years old. She's literally telling people like, you know why I do this is because Jesus loves me. You know, I baptized her like I think a year and a half ago, actually. And she came up with me just the other day. She's like, I feel like I was pressured and I was rushed. And I was like, hey, baby, what are the requirements? Okay. I want you to just read it to me. Okay. I want you to hear it. Do you believe that Jesus is the Son of God? Yeah. Do you believe that he died on the cross for our sins? Do you accept him as your Lord and Savior? She's like, yeah, Dad, you know I do. And like without question. So of course my heart melts again. I'm like, yes, yeah, we're winning, you know? And and then I was like, so what changed? And she, of course, questioned. And I was like, did your mind change or did God change?
Ooh.
I really want you to know that because you were the one who told me after one day, we call it Kid City. We don't call it Sunday school. We call it Kid City, right? And she's like, I think I understand the fear of God a little better. And I was like, what do you mean, baby? And she goes, you feel guilty when you do something bad. I was like, that's a great way to sum that up, babe. I think that's actually a wonderful, simplistic. I've actually used that on adults now. Like, I was like, tell you the advice of a 10-year-old girl, okay? Like, if you don't feel guilty for doing something bad, then that shows a lack of a presence of the Holy Spirit. And that's detrimental. Guilt isn't something that we should run from. Humility is a teacher of God. And he wants us to learn through empathy. Read his book, obey. We're not doing that. We're not going to make that mistake. We're not that smart, you know, like we're going to go mess it up and then come back and read about it in the Bible and be like, oh no, that is why I don't do this. This is why I don't do that. And I see that just ever present now more than ever. And like really the moral of all of it is like you see my past and then you see me now. Like no one would have said that, you know, no one would have said it, but now I see Facebook friends because all my posts are about my Savior, are about my God, and that's my brand. That's my brand. That's my personal page. And even on my business page, Innovative Ideas Pro, the only content I have is for God. My job is to make other people's content for their business, right? So whatever, you know, I don't really put much thought into that. I don't need the attention. I just want to share it, you know, like you said, you know, church and people, like church is a people, it's not a place. And I think we can, when we collectively understand the premise of Christ, it is mind changing. It is life altering. It does renew your mind. The submittance isn't something that we're forced to do, though. The surrendering isn't something that you absolutely have to do. No, you have a free will, and God never robbed you of that. He never took it away. He will never. You will always be in a point where you have two opposing ideas coexisting at the same time, and you got to pick. God won't pick for you. You know, and I mean, a lot of people are sensitive about that concept, but like you could even apply that to the very serious concept of hell itself. And why? Because hell is not a destination that God sends you to. It's somewhere you pick to be. And once we realize that it is a matter of choice, it is a matter of choice. We're going to have the same mindset when we face him. And we're going to see this choice that we get to make. Why? You know, this is how it was told to me. If God says, why do you deserve to go to heaven? There's one answer. It's because Jesus died on the cross.
Man. Amen.
You could talk about how good you did for this person and how much better you did for that person. And you could go on and on and on. And that still ain't, you just complicated that. Like you actually made that difficult now. And so when I see that, again, I like to understand and let people understand, like God shows his love by your choice alone. you aren't forced to love him.
Oh
He
man,
he
I'm
he
just thinking.
doesn't make
I'm sorry. I'm thinking about your answer. What you said. Like, man, that is like the perfect answer though. That makes perfect sense. Because I was thinking like just being there in that moment, and we're gonna think to ourselves, why, why should we be going into heaven? Why? What makes us better? And I was like, that is the perfect answer, man.
it's the
Because
only answer.
yeah, it's like that makes so much sense. It's like, so now I thank you for that, because when that day comes and I get sent home, I'll
Yeah.
say that. I'll be like, thanks to Matt, my brother Matt, he told me, and
This is a
like it stayed
ministry.
with
Like,
me.
yeah, who am I? And I like these nuggets. I think everybody needs to share them. Like, but I also think these things aren't being said this way because Christians are saying you're gonna burn. This is wrath and judgment. It's like you missed the grace part, FYI. You missed it greatly. And in fact, this wrath and judgment actually is not your part. You are not a part of that. You are not the vessel for that. You are the vessel for grace. And you have to open your eyes to that. Like, what does that mean? Well, it means you turn the other cheek. It means you give them the cloak. It means you shut your mouth. It means you obey to the point of a beating and take that persecution. I mean, First Timothy, or second one of the Timothys, it's like he who chooses this life will be persecuted. And I've been persecuted ever since. I mean, I'll go on forums where there's supposedly free range debate, but I get every private message under the sun that I should go kill myself. I should go hang myself. I need mental help. I should go put myself and admit myself in an asylum. And I was like, I've never felt more sane. I don't know what you're talking about. I've been in those crazy places. Don't tell me that it's like that. Like, I've actually been there at times because of my past and my mental health journeys and all this stuff. But now I've been delivered. I've been delivered from all of it. And the only thing that really makes me high is when I get to watch a grown man that's just been suffering his whole life. When I watch him weep, like he's never wept ever in his life. Like he's just like, he really does love me, doesn't he? And I'm like, yes, he does. And I just give him this big old hug. And I'm like, hey, like, call me tomorrow. I hate to say most of the time I don't get that call tomorrow, but I know I did my part. I planted a seed.
Yep.
And then I move on. So that's that special forces approach too. Like get in, get out, and make sure you effectively accomplish the mission.
Right there, though, you touched on something very important. Is when we do our part, we plant that seed. But how often do we find ourselves trying to play God's part and continue to do something worth
Yeah.
that seed?
Yeah.
It's like, nope, you did your part. Now let
Yeah.
God do His.
I've messed up doing that myself. I've messed up like primarily with my own family members. Like they saw the change. They saw me be released of everything. They saw me just love my family. Just only reason I can love my family is because I love Christ first. Like that's it. And when they hear that, they're like, oh, or I'll say to them, like, hey, just so you know, Jesus is better at forgiving than you are sinning. And then they're like, really? And I'm like, really? He really is. Because we are good at sinning. Don't even lie to yourself. But he is better. He is better and will always be. And then that's why I love the apologetics approach. Like, here's Pontius Pilate's records. Okay, here's Pauline epistles in finite, validated history. Here's, like I always tell people, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Well, everyone's like, oh, Luke's a disciple or apostle. No, he's an historian. And it's crazy how this historian matches Matthew, Mark, and John's story like verbatim. Like, And they're like, I hate reading this book because I'm reading the same thing. I just read this all in Matthew. And I was like, well, let me ask you something. If you were there testifying and you heard different answers, don't you think that'd be a little crazy?
Mhm.
And that perspective, now they've got rid of that barrier. Wait a minute. That does make sense. What else you got? And then that's where you have to let God use you and discern, like, how much more are they ready for? Do I know? And at what point do you stop? What was this? The old saying I heard is, knowledge is knowing what to say, wisdom is knowing whether or not you should say it. And I think that is huge, because I have no problem opening my mouth. I have no problem not keeping it shut, especially when it comes to my Lord and Savior. Like, especially, like, I'm sure you even saw on my LinkedIn page, it's my first title, like, servant of Jesus Christ. And I that's my brand. That's my brand. Everything else is secondary. This will all come in, but I'm now going to get this opportunity to have a full-blown media production. And I mean, within the next 2 years, this will be complete, because I just got plugged in with all of this. And overnight, this just happened. Now I'm involved in these weekly meetings, and I'm stoked. I'm just so stoked. Like, this is the next level that God is going to allow me, because there's so many people that I'm going to be working with too, that I personally feel are far from God. And if I just can every day work as hard as I can for them and serve them at to the finest tea, and make sure that I literally choose to be a slave for them, they're going to ask why one day. They're going to ask, and that's my chance. I will wait my lifetime for that chance, for that one moment. Why do you do this? Because my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. That's why. That's the only reason I do what I do. That's the only reason I have forgiveness to offer. That's the only reason I have grace to give. And fight me. You won't change my mind. You're not going to change it at this point. I'm certain of things that are unseen. And I've personally firsthand witnessed, I'm often just very divine experiences happening throughout my life as a specific result of being obedient.
And it, like you said, though, it's really just trusting in the Lord, man. And right there, like, as you see it in your life, my life, God will provide. It's
Hey,
just you
yeah.
just gotta trust in the Lord.
Amen.
He does the rest
Always.
for you.
Yeah. And in ways you didn't even imagine too. I mean, I wanted that house. I wanted all this stuff. I fit the facade at one point. I wanted this type of car because I like it. Like, just bought a minivan. Yes, I love the minivan. Like, cup holders for days. Like, I was like, this is the best car ever. I never thought I'd be so happy.
Um, okay, but let's talk a little bit more about, as you're talking about your brand, your network. Let's talk more about it. Let's kind of let the audience know more, a little bit more. Tell me a little bit more about your services. What do you do with it? What are you offering?
So with my business, I do full service digital marketing. I do outsource a lot because of my network. My personal specialty is the media production. And but of course I'm a one-man show. So if there's anything like $3,000 and up, I outsource it, make a commission. But websites, paid marketing, organic marketing, social media marketing, Google marketing, SEO, you name it. I will do it. And I do that to be able to provide a person, especially like small business owners or even corporations, a one-stop shop. I don't like that so many people have parted out. And even though there's a sense that I kind of do that, it's still all one entity. It's still one payment. There's only one means where the client and I have to just have one transaction. There's not all these moving parts that complicates it for them and me. I'm able to manage everything on the back end that allows me to, look like I've got this giant, awesome team on my end. And no, I've got, it's called Warrior Rising. It's a veteran entrepreneur network. I got plugged in with them. Entrepreneur boot camp for veterans with disabilities. I speak with the venture capitalists often, and I will make sure that anything that I have to ask him, he's like, he himself wasn't a veteran, but his dad was a disabled veteran. So he started the program. He's like, okay, you need to do this. He actually is got me encouraged. Now I'm going to get my business under a service connected, disabled veteran operated business. And that's in the process now. If you guys need to know how to do that, Small Business Development Center, Ohio will do it all for free. They'll connect you with PTAC, and they will actually walk through it for free with you. You don't need to pay a lawyer $500. You don't need to do any of that. I'm all about free services, and I found out that those are available to everyone, not just veterans. And especially for anybody trying to think about a new business and get it up and running, please start with everything free. Utilize every resource that you can, because there is so much that you don't know about. And getting plugged in with the Small Business Development Center will actually give you a good place to start. They'll even give you outlines for a business plan if you need it. They'll walk you through the LLC process or the S Corp process, anything really. They'll even give you like financial guidelines. They have financial advisors for free to help you. Like, you show them your books, they'll walk through it. It's like, wow. You don't know until you know. You don't know unless you know. And if you don't know, then you should know. And I think that this has provided me. So I will say that is part of my service too, is just that startup knowledge. Like, I love to educate. I love to be helpful. Pay it forward is the best way to say it. If I see that you don't got a budget, I'm not going to rob you. I won't do that. It's not in my nature. The money isn't what's going to give me the peace of mind when I go to bed at night, knowing that I helped you would. And that's the Christ-like mindset that you get to incorporate in the business. So, my services are very, very broad, but they all complement each other in every way. So you don't want to have one without the other if you're really starting. In some cases, I would say situation dictates, depending on what you're starting off. If you do have a network, if you can utilize some type of influencer market, please do that. Like, in a day, you could literally have a viral content. And that's what everybody expects to happen, but that's the most unrealistic approach ever with anyone, because you may think what you got is the hottest thing on planet Earth, but everyone else doesn't, and unless you really have people constantly criticizing you to help you grow, you'll stay in that mindset almost to a degree. So I like to add that perspective with my services. Like, here's what you're going to get. Here's how you're going to get it. And there is no sugarcoating to this. Parts of this will be bitter, not bittersweet. It will be bitter. And because when you start, like, you start putting money in these fundings, for example, for paid advertising on social media, you start paying for funding for a like campaign, which is just generating likes for your page. But why would you need that? Well, because of complex, stupid algorithms. I would argue they are very dumb, because I think there's a lot of bias involved in them at times. And I don't know exactly who is influencing that, but it's starting to get a little out of hand. And I mean, again, it goes so deep, but when you have that like campaign, because your page is constantly being liked, then you put a campaign for your product, you're actually like 100 to 10,000 times more likely to get attraction on that promo video because you have both campaigns going. And that's such simple things, you know, but then you got to look at their budget. What would I say is the minimum? Well, $25 a day times 30 for every month. You got to add that up. It's almost over $700. And you start, oh, now I'm $700. And for this like campaign, you're kidding me, right? But then when you have that on top of the $50 a day promo campaign, because these are the minimum prices that these social media networks are actually going to mass broadcast your stuff. It's like, there really is a baseline. They really don't want you to spend $5 a day. They really don't, and they don't like it. And so they'll do something about that, which is why I say I believe there's a bias. You know, I love sharing this again for free. Like, if you're going to start with paid advertising, start with Google. Don't ever start anywhere else. Google is number one. They are the best. And they're even like matching everything that Facebook has done. Like, they're even learning how to target market, be specific. But the only reason for that is because everybody Googles it with the intent to sell. They don't Facebook it with the intent to sell. Everyone Googles it with the intent to sell. So that's why my number one advice, if you're going to do any type of paid advertising, you for sure should start with Google.
What's that? Oh, needed you a couple of years ago. I think, yeah, I was using Facebook ads. But hey, it worked. It worked. But it got to a point where I was like, okay, this kind of I'm not getting what I want.
Yeah. And there's technicalities. Like, Facebook is the most biased, but they have let up, they have changed, but they are also ever changing, like ever changing. When I make a website, it's still pretty standard. A lot of the code still nowadays, you don't even need code to make websites. You can use such simple things to make this all. And again, as a very low budget entrepreneur, I learned from the very beginning, utilize every single resource I have that is free at first. So I started using some things at Ohio Media School because I was a graduate. I graduated 2 of the programs there, was radio, television, broadcasting, and digital media production. And that was like, okay, I could use their cameras. And then I found myself being like, oh, they only shoot 1080p. Only certain ones shoot any 1080p. I want 4K. Well, go on YouTube. Nothing shot in 4K.
Nope.
And then you're like taken back. Like, I could use this. Stop being so stubborn. Stop thinking I need the best, and do something, because it's all these ideas that stop you from doing it. It's all those ideas that stop you from developing a service or a marketing plan for each service. Like, I now, for the first time ever, I'm actually at DeVry University in my senior year, getting my degree in digital marketing. And a lot of it's a refresher. A lot of it's very familiar with. So it's not that difficult of courses for me. But I can see that this progression is definitely needed. You constantly need to update, but you also need to constantly utilize every resource possible. You are wasting time. And there are so many free ones. Like, what is it? $150, Ohio. That's what it cost me to get my LLC. $150. You know, now, of course, you got that title business owner and everybody thinks you're rich, but that's not true. You know,
business owner, this guy's making it.
You know, like, I bought a used minivan, by the way. You know, like,
it's not fresh off the lot.
But, you know, but that's always the thing. Like, there's the next step. Now build the network. Now utilize it. Once word of mouth, of course, is the best. Why not start there if you can? But if you can't, It's all niche specific. There are so many variants, there's so many variations, there's so many ways to approach each service, even that I would provide, specifically. But say I got a small business that comes to me right now and they're just brand new, fresh. They went ahead, got their LLC, but then they're lost. Well, okay, you need a digital thumbprint, you need a website. Okay, now you need content for that website. Now you need a blog to constantly update that website. And there's each a la carte service added on. So now, because ideally everybody wants that monthly subscription, everybody wants that residual retainer fee that's constant. And that's how you do it. You make that set price for a very cheap website, but then you have that monthly maintenance fee. Then you have that monthly content fee. Then you have that monthly blog fee. And those are 3 separate fees for me. I don't even care. I'll give away half my secrets. Like, use AI, use it. It can make your, copy amazing. It can make your copy amazing. Why not? If Envato Elements is $17 a month, $17 a month, you got B-roll, 4K B-roll, pictures, video stuff. If you're a video editor and you don't have Envato Elements, you need it. $17, you can't get a better thing. But even then, with that $17, you could also get WordPress document templates, pre-made websites that you really need to just plug in half of it. And why not? Why not? And I don't even have a problem telling half my clients this, because they still don't want to do it. They're like, okay, I'm glad you just said that. Now go do it. Here's the money. And cool. All right. Well,
Like, I'll do it.
I tried, like my actually just made a product marketing plan for something that I could market to consumers, not business. Because this is something I'm passionate about, which is family. It's the concept is a family website. So what's the need? Well, there's a lot of family members that don't want a social media profile. There's a lot of family members that don't even want to bother trying to learn how to use it. And then, which social media profile are you going to use? Well, if I got one family member that's an admin to this, that's constantly loading these content, and there's a password protected website that only your family members can see, but then you got your own private content with your whole family being able to watch it across the world at the drop of your phone. And I was like, this is great, but this is a stop loss product for me that builds rapport, because they all know a business owner. They all know someone that's looking for this, and they definitely know another family that would love this. And then, okay, well, if you don't want to maintain it, well, how about this? I'll charge you $75 a month for minimal maintenance. You want a blog? I don't know why you would want to update that type of page out of that, but I will still offer it, like, here's how, or everything pertaining to it. So don't limit it, like, because my services are websites, but it's always been business to business websites. That limits you to business. And so if you can't think outside the box, then you need to find a way, which again, this is a stop loss item for me. This is one of my first marketing plans I ever made. It's a stop loss item. I sell 4 of these. I've covered all my expenses for the year, because I'm that cheap. First off, let me remind you, like, I am that cheap. All my equipment's been paid for. I don't have anything on credit. I with the grants I got from school as a veteran, I paid for equipment. I didn't buy the party animal stuff anymore. Like, I'm looking at the equipment that I use now, and I'm exclusive to Apple. I'll be biased about that. I'm an Apple guy, but I wouldn't trade it. Like, it's beneficial for me to share this, because when people see that I'm willing to be that helpful, then they'll see that there's a trust that can be established. When they see that they don't have to go through the ringer to get on a phone call with me and hear, how can I change this so I don't have to pay $250 for your editing fee or rewriting, well, here, let me tell you, and you make it that simple. And I intend to keep that mentality forever. And I will not hire people who portray that, the opposition of that. I won't. My intention with this actually is to really get poverty level interns, specifically men who have been through the ringer, and to build them. That's who I have intentions to be included in my business. I'm not like excluding women. It's just, I needed someone at that age at my time, and I want to be that person for them. And my business can be that asset for me.
Perfect. Perfect. All right, as we begin to wrap this thing up, I just simply want to say thank you for coming on and telling your story. It's truly been, I mean, you gave us a lot of information. I hope whoever's watching right now, listen, you took this all in. You were able to get, just really learn from it, If anybody wants to get a hold of you, come in contact you with you, get some help, how can they do that?
Two ways. My phone number, 440-391-9199. Very simple number. And then, or Matthew at IIPmarketing.com.
All right.
Those are the two main ways. I check them every day. I'm very avid. I of course always have my phone on me with digital media. I do social media for these other businesses now. That's actually about to go like really through the roof. I used to do it for Ohio Media School, but I'm always checking my school. I'm always checking my phone. So I will answer. If I don't, I will be prompt. I will get back to you. And I always check my emails every few hours.
Oh, glory to God, man. Oh, glory to God.
Yeah. Amen.
We'll end it with some random questions. Let's say, if you could go anywhere in the world right now, all paid for, everything's taken care of, where are you going?
We got less than a minute. So I'm gonna wait to answer that in 1 second.
We'll come back after the commercial break.
We will come back after the commercial because I really want to answer this because I don't think anybody's gonna expect it.
Did you say sweet tooth? That's a piece of cake. Our gourmet stuffed cupcakes will have you feeling good from the tip of your tongue all the way down to your belly. Calling all frosting lovers here. It's your time to shine. Even better news, we deliver straight to you. Text My Love to 440-525-3916 for $5 off your first dozen. Now
we are back. That is our last commercial break. As we're wrapping up the show, we were asking the questions. If you could go anywhere in the world, all paid for, everything's taken care of, where are you going?
Well, seeing as how I'm married, I would go wherever my wife wants. That would be my first answer. But if that wasn't the influencer, it wouldn't be anywhere because there's work to do here. And I mean, I maybe stay at a hotel. I'm just so simple. Like I've seen the world. I've seen so many places. Not that I'm excluding the rest of it or not willing to go travel. I'm always willing, but if money wasn't an issue or all this stuff, I'd still be exactly where I'm at today. Because I believe that there's broken homes here. There's broken things that I can work here. And I'm not on the other side of the world for a reason. If I was, then that's where I would need to be. Like I told my wife, once the money does start coming, which is it's slowly starting to happen, my goal is not to spend it on vacations. My goal is to give it back. My goal is to build something here that makes a difference. Like I'm a certified health coach. How can I make a sustainable food source? How can I teach people how to make a sustainable food source? It's really an end goal. I think that's a huge thing for me. Like, why are people in my neighborhood hungry? That makes no sense to me. Like, they should not be hungry in my neighborhood. I mean, I live in like Cleveland 3 blocks from the ghetto. So like, and it's hard because you see it everywhere. Drugs have wiped out the whole city. It's terrible, and that's where I want to be. That's where I want to be. That's a place I'm called to be that I don't feel scared to be. So I would keep it that simple. I couldn't say a destination is for me, because I believe I'm in my destination.
Well, that goes perfect into my next question. If you could change the world, how would you do
One person at a time.
it?
Honestly, I think on a grander scheme of things, I would definitely teach more relevant things in school, starting at a very young age with children, especially agricultural, entrepreneurship, leadership. I believe that youth is always the place to start. It is the number one place where we should put all our effort in. Children matter, and they are the future. They are the next generation. They are the next step. So how we program them is going to be what impacts the generations after that. And so for sure, something with like very young teaching of horticulture, agriculture, um, what's the word I'm looking for? The anatomy that we need to know, not the other stuff that only doctors need to know. I definitely think we should actually talk about that. And really an emphasis on health. Like you could take two studies right now with a farm boy and a city boy, and the major difference is the diversity in cultures and the bacteria in their stomach. And I mean, this is universal study. You can find this in every compared study with those two dynamics. You won't miss it. Why are the city boys more sick? Well, two things happen. There's far more city boys than there are things. So we can't rule that out. But on an average, still, there's a reason. And if we teach that small reason, again, when a child doesn't get breast milk at that young age, they're actually at a severe statistical disadvantage because of that probiotic bacteria that's in there. Like, because that started growing at that age. And our body is made up of so many microorganisms. So obviously, Tom, I'm really passionate about health. So there would be, if I could change anything, it would be definitely our understanding of what health actually is versus what the doctors do.
All right, final question. All right, let's see what I can come up with. Will we ever see a book published by you?
I don't think I'd ever rule it out. I think it's like I gotta be in that like old man phase, probably. Like I'm only 37 now, which is still fairly young. So like I could see myself doing that. Like yes, and of course, I would make sure I'm not the main character. Like that. I would say that. If I did, it would be a very Christ-centered book. If I ever wrote one, because it would be very specific on those topics, like very clear things, like what is religion, what is relationship, what does it mean to follow God, and was Jesus actually real? Like again, apologetics. If I really wrote it, it would be from a non-scientific approach, like Gary Habermas. It would be just from, hey, look at this normal person, like like a disciple, and look how much he can know because of obedience. Like, I think I would really kind of like offer that perspective on faith if I ever did.
That is how you wrap up a podcast, man. It's how you finish it. Finish it
Yeah.
strong. But for the people that are watching right now, listening, if you made it this far, I know it's about, 2 hours? This is a podcast for everyone. It's an open platform. So if you would like to come on sometime and tell your story, just like how Matthew did, just contact me on LinkedIn. Or you could find me on Facebook. I'm on there too, Chris Baker Jr. Reach out to me, message me, and let's talk. Let's make this happen. You could be my next guest to tell the story. Other than that, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. This is Chris. That's Matt. Peace.